paths crossed in 1987. Just 2 days before the fall semester began in 1955, Doug hitched a ride from New York City to Buchanan, West Virginia. Fresh out of the Navy, Doug did not have a place to stay, of course. Being a good Methodist, he methodically started knocking on doors near the campus. Doug finally found a room at Ma Benson's home, which is now the Erickson Alumni Center. This snippet of history explains why Doug was so comfortable showing up unexpectedly on people's doorsteps, including mine, 3 decades later. I'll never forget the day he came to our family home to talk me into applying for the position of Christian Education Coordinator at Cranford UNC. Get this. It was early in the morning when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to see Doug, who was standing there with a cup of joe in one hand and a Boston cream donut in the other. "Good morning," he said as he strolled into our home. I was in the neighborhood. I wanted to say hi. That morning was one of the stepping stones for my journey into ministry and 27 years of friendship between the Wing and Miller family. It also began the era of the Christmas bunny, only because Doug continuously forgot to bring Christmas presents until around Easter. I've often thought that if God had not already picked Doug out to be a pastor, he would have made a great door-to-door salesman. His enthusiasm and ability to convince anyone that giving to the local church, a mission project, or Wesleyan college is unsurpassed. Doug is both a very personable and a smart guy. As my pastor and boss, he loved to tell me about the work of great theologians and leaders in ministry. Reinhold Niebuhr, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Henri Nouwen, Karl Barth, and of course, Charles Schulz, the Apostle Paul, and last but not least, Jesus. However, the very astute Wesleyan admission counselors and professors realized that while this incoming freshman had lots of potential, his high school record pointed to his need for some oversight. You see, Doug attended a classroom in the woods every Friday during his high school years. Mother Nature was his teacher, and he was a very dedicated student. During the first 3 months at Wesleyan, Dean Schoolcraft hired him to rake leaves, paint the shed, and study in his parlor. When Doug finally landed a job as a waiter in the Agnes Howard Hall, the women's dining room, he was in heaven. No big surprise to those of us who know Doug. Doug would later be fired from his job as a waiter because he was secretly dating and corresponding under the pen name Joe Moth with the lovely Audrey Cully, who he met at Agnes Howard and later married. Audrey's enthusiasm for Wesleyan was matched by Doug's until her death in 1977. After his coursework at Boston School of Theology, Doug was really taught how to be a pastor by the church congregations at Brushy Forks, Davison Run, and Nutter Fort, West Virginia. Now, I'm not sure if those congregations are responsible for the pearls of wisdom I received from Doug as my mentor. But I do recall this conversation when I first began pastoring on my own. Doug, I'm stressed out about getting everything right around the sacrament of Holy Communion. What if I forget the hand movements? What if I forget them while reading the liturgy? He looks at me and he smiles and he says, Elaine, there's only one thing you need to remember in worship, and it is this: don't mess with the offering. Well, Doug, I'm sorry to report this, but I have messed with or forgotten the offering once or twice in 20-some years. However, I've not forgotten the more important lessons that Doug imparted, the ones that really stuck. You taught me and so many others that the best ministry occurs when the pastor leads the people, but then has the horse sense to get out of God's way. I can still close my eyes and see one woman in particular on her first visit to the church where Doug and I both served. Her hair was long and unkempt. Her clothes were baggy and drab. Her demeanor was one of a person who was worn down from years of abuse and low self-esteem. A year later, she reminded me of a beautiful butterfly that had emerged from its gray-brown chrysalis to stretch her wings and take flight. The congregations that Doug has served have grown in spiritual depth and number because he expects growth to be messy, creative, and reflective of God who designed the world to be in a constant state of transformation. More than anyone I've ever known, Doug genuinely accepts individuals for who they are, and he desires one thing, that each person develops their God-given talents to the fullest degree, and that they know of God's love for them. This is why Doug is such an ardent supporter of Wesleyan. The school's mission and his passion are joyfully and eternally interwoven. It is why he began recruiting our two kids, Matt and Megan, when they were still in diapers. Doug added a new element to the job description of godparent. In fact, I've long believed that the reason Doug convinced us to buy a house right next to his in the Pocono Mountains wasn't for our daughter Megan's chocolate chip cookies fresh out of the oven. It was rather so that he could keep whispering in their ears, "Go to Wesleyan." And he even played the Home in the Hills video again and again and again. By the way, Doug, Meg asked me to remind you in front of this prestigious body and God of your promise of the BMW convertible. Should she attend Wesleyan, it has yet to be fulfilled. Doug, it's readily apparent to all of us here why you are receiving this honorary doctorate. Perhaps I'm going too far, but I believe that you are a gift of God to this school, to your wife Priscilla, to your family, and to your friends. Congratulations, Christmas Bunny. And thank you, President Walsh, for the opportunity to introduce Doug today.
The conferring of honorary degrees allows Wesleyan to affirm the humane and Christian values upon which the college is founded by acknowledging individuals of outstanding professional and scholarly achievement who have made substantial contributions to society and the cause of higher education. President Walsh, it gives me great pleasure to present to you on this Founders Day Assembly, Reverend Douglas S. Miller. He has been approved by the faculty and the Board of Trustees of West Virginia Wesleyan to receive the degree of Doctor of Divinity.
Thank you, Dean Griezmann. Reverend Dr. Douglas S. Miller, today, West Virginia Wesleyan College grants you its highest honor. With this recognition, we celebrate your life, accomplishments, and lifelong contributions and commitment to faith, service, and the United Methodist Church. After completing your degree from West Virginia Wesleyan in 1959, you obtained a Master of Sacred Theology from Boston University and a Doctor of Ministry from Drew University. You then began your endeavors serving in various roles within the church. You have dedicated your life to aiding others through faith as you served as the senior pastor at First United Methodist Church in Montclair, New Jersey, and chaplain at Montclair State College. From 1978 to 87, you served at the United Methodist Church in Demarest, New Jersey, and as senior pastor at Cranford United Methodist Church in Cranford, New Jersey, from 1987 to 1993. From 1993 to 2000, you worked directly with the Delaware District of the Northern New Jersey Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church during your tenure as the district superintendent. In this role, you managed and coordinated 76 churches and assisted in numerous church building campaigns and the Hope for Africa effort. You have lived John Wesley's words through your work as the team leader of the Redbird Missionary Conference in Beverly, Kentucky, and your dedication to service is shown throughout your status as a veteran of the United States Naval Reserve and a lifelong Eagle Scout. We especially honor you this day for your lifetime of devotion to West Virginia Wesleyan through your service as an alumni, trustee, and employee. Your tireless work as a recruiter of students for the college amounted in several hundred students enrolling in Wesleyan who, as alum, have now excelled in a variety of professional fields. Reverend Dr. Douglas S. Miller, in recognition of your exceptional service and commitment to both the United Methodist Church and to West Virginia Wesleyan College, by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you West Virginia Wesleyan's honorary degree, Doctor of Divinity, and cause you to be so hooded and to be presented with this diploma the 17th day of October in the year 2014 in Buchanan,